restore the wilderness and bring back the wildlife to areas devastated by human activity. This is the immense challenge that daring women and men have decided to take up in various parts of the world. In the vast prairies of South America, the plains of the Kalahari and the African bush, teams of scientists are working to rewild natural habitats that were thought to be irredeemably lost. In Mozambique, the largest wildlife reintroduction program in the world has just begun. During several months, teams of veterinarians, keepers and rangers will capture and translocate several thousands of animals.
There's this side, yeah. On the right side, I think it's the best route.
The goal of this spectacular project, organized by the authorities and the Peace Parks Foundation, is to bring Zinav National Park back to its former glory. Created in 1972 to protect elephants, giraffes and other savanna wildlife, this reserve has been ravaged by years of civil war and intensive poaching. Zinav National Park is located in the southern part of Mozambique. Delimited to the north by the majestic Febvre River, the park covers more than 4,000 square kilometers. Bernard van Lente oversees the repopulation project launched in 2016. Prior to each reintroduction, he checks the state of the park and the water level of the river from the air.
Zinav used to be well known for its huge amount of animals it was supporting. And then unfortunately with the civil war, as with all civil wars, it has a detrimental effect on the national park. Systems collapsed and the animals were poached basically to the point of local extinction. And the bad side of that, of course, is that the vegetation is not being utilized the way it should. You must remember, vegetation is adapted to being grazed by animals, and if that doesn't happen, you actually go into a unnatural state. So although it might look beautiful with all the big trees and things, the diversity is actually lower because there's no recycling of any of the vegetation. So your insect diversity goes down, your bird diversity goes down, and your small predator diversity goes down.
Between 1977 and 1992, 15 years of civil war forced the populations to resort to poaching in order to survive. Only a few small herbivores and animals that have found refuge in the Febvre River escaped the dark times of Mozambique's history. Bernard continues his inspection on the ground to make sure that the survivors won't suffer from the dry season.
Small populations still do survive in these pools that you find all along the river. It's quite deep, like fairly safe there. So these are the core populations for any protection effort in future. You know, your fish will breed in here, the hippos find safe haven. There's a large number of crocodiles can congregate in these pools because it's obviously quite safe. So in terms of the ecology of the park, the river itself, but the pool specifically is very important.
The disappearance of elephants and of large herds of herbivores have upset the plant diversity and reshaped the landscapes. It took only a few years for the bushes and trees to proliferate. Before the war, the savanna occupied 80% of the park's territory. Now it only covers 25% of its surface area. These secular giants that used to tower over the savanna are now the last vestiges of a past wilderness.
These baobabs, they are the witness to Zinav's history. Some of them have been here up to 1,000 years, and they've seen the good and the bad times of Zinav. This baobab is clear evidence that there used to be elephant in the park. You can see this damage or old damage that has healed now. This is where the elephant have stripped the bark from the baobab, especially in dry seasons. These baobabs, they've seen animals disappear over the last few decades. And yeah, we hope they can witness a new chapter in Zinav over the next few years.
The first act of this incredible saga started in 2012 with a highly symbolic gesture, the reintroduction of 7 giraffes. This species had totally disappeared from Mozambique. However, the rewilding operations truly began 4 years later. And the task at hand is colossal. First, the woodlands must be reduced to restore the vast prairies that are vital for the herbivores. For this to succeed, the park's teams are counting on the return of an unbeatable forest destroyer, the elephant. In 2016, during the first reintroduction phase, 8 individuals were released. These heavyweights prepare the ground for the other species.
There's some elephants that crossed here, probably last night. Small group, maybe just 2 or 3 elephants. Let's see.
João Simões de Almeida, a veterinarian specialized in wildlife, checks the impact of each reintroduced species on the environment.
So we can see clearly a tree that has been pushed down. You see lots of elephant signs all over. And this tree has been most likely pushed down by elephants. There's other examples around us. Elephants do a lot of this. Sometimes it's connected to a negative impact that they have on the forest, but actually if it's not too much, it's very, very positive in another critical role that they're playing in the ecosystem. You know, this tree is not dead yet, for example, and so lots of other browsers can come and feed on this rich leaves, well, they otherwise couldn't. They open up the bark of trees, and usually there's lots of insects and termites living in here. And so then animals like birds that feed on insects can come and now they have a new meal that they wouldn't have without the elephants.
Elephants can eat up to 200 kilograms of food per day. By breaking branches and trees to reach the foliage, they open up passages through the wooded areas. Through their action, new clearings are formed. Light reaches the ground once again, and the savanna reappears. These giants open the way for the other large herbivores.
We could say that elephants are both gardeners and architects of the bush. We call them bush engineers because, you know, they play a huge role on making the ecosystem good for a wide range of species. So elephants are a critical component of an ecosystem, and that's why it's so important for Zinav to be bringing up these elephants.
Before the Civil War, there were 1,500 elephants maintaining this immense territory. Today, there are not enough of them to remodel 400,000 hectares of land invaded by bushes and mopane forests. Therefore, the authorities and the teams at the Peace Parks Foundation have decided to increase their numbers. And there is only one solution for this: to translocate elephants from parks and reserves that have a surplus. This is the case in South Africa, where certain reserves are facing overpopulation problems. This situation is a threat to their ecological balance. In order to control excessive population growth, the authorities in Mkuzi and Itala in the KwaZulu-Natal region have to regularly carry out sterilization or relocation programs. This situation is a godsend for Zinav National Park and for these elephants who will be able to enjoy the vast spaces and the abundance of food. Several major operations are organized to move around 100 individuals. It's a very tense situation because capturing the animals can be risky. Elephants have very strong family and social bonds. In the panic, the elephant calves must at all costs be kept from getting separated from their mothers. Once anesthetized, these heavyweights that can weigh up to 6 tons must be moved with care. The precious cargo not only holds the hope for Zinav's rebirth, it is also an essential part of an even more ambitious project, the creation of a gigantic transfrontier park. Slightly larger than Iceland, the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park will connect 5 large African parks located in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. It will stretch over more than 100,000 square kilometers. Dr. Bartolomeo Soto, the director of the Peace Parks Foundation in Mozambique, is at the heart of this huge project.
Zinav is part of that great dream, which is Transfrontier Conservation Area, which starts in Kruger National Parks and hence up to here, and it also connects with Gona Resort.
In a few years from now, the fences will come down. The animals from the various parks will be able to move freely from one country to the other, meet and reproduce. But for the time being, the agreement between the 3 nations is essentially meant to facilitate wildlife exchanges and transfers between the parks.
This is an example that where the elephants are now in high densities in South Africa, now they are translocated into Mozambique, into Zinav. So our understanding is that these elephants are elephants of everyone. They are moving from South Africa into Zinav without passports, and they are considered citizens of this large ecosystem.
As the months and seasons go by, thanks to the elephants' action, the savannahs are gaining ground once again. To keep the bushes and trees from growing back, the teams have decided to reintroduce 250 water bucks taken from Gorongosa, another park in Mozambique. Water bucks are not as specialized and picky as other antelope species. They can eat reeds, rushes, and shrubs. These incredible grazers carry on the elephant's work. At Zinav headquarters, the Director of Operations, Trevor Landry, and Bernard van Lenter track the elephant's daily movements, and particularly those of the newcomers.
Each one of these pins represents a collar on a specific time and day. We are looking for some particular collars of an elephant that we would like to go and see how they're settling and which sort of habitat that they are in at this point in time. We're going to go and have a look for these elephant, and if we are unable to physically locate them because of the terrain or the bush, in the evening we'll go down to the pan. We've set up some camera traps, and we will position ourselves there close to where they drink the water, and hopefully that we will be more successful there.
It would look like during the day they're mostly in this area here, and then in late afternoon, evening they move towards the pan. So depending on the time of day we go, we'll look around here.
Yeah.
Late afternoon, probably good to go and look in that area around the pan. You can see any elephants coming to the water in that area.
Over time, the elephants acquire more and more knowledge. They know where to find water and food, even during periods of drought. However, translocated elephants lose their bearings. They are completely disoriented, and family herds are likely to break apart. Trevor Landry would like to make sure that the first elephants reintroduced are still grouped together and that no individual has been lost or gone astray.
Yeah, it still feels warm. So he was here about 30 minutes ago, so he's going to be within a couple of kilometers of here. Okay, so I don't want to get too far behind.
Using a drone is often the best way to spot them because the vegetation is too thick to be able to follow the herd. And ever since they were captured, the elephants have developed a strong fear of humans. At the slightest warning, they go deeper into the woods.
Just because of the experience of the translocation, they are not really comfortable where they are, and it just takes a long time, a year or two, before they settle down and understand their habitat, understand where they are, and before they call it home.
The elephants are not easy to follow. Their movements are unpredictable. They travel ceaselessly and can cover up to 40 kilometers per day. But they can't do without water. This is why Trevor Landry has decided to set up some camera traps close to a waterhole.
As we can see, there's a lot of elephant sign, so I think we'll move on down here and find a suitable spot along this trail. I think that's a good angle there, and I think we'll put another one over here, just to cover it, elephant coming from this side. I think this will be a good position. Yeah, I think that's good.
The elephants and the waterbucks have accomplished their mission. For the park's teams, the time has come to introduce new species of herbivores.
Every animal in the ecosystem, they play a role. Buffaloes eat this top, very poor, nutritionally poor part of the grass. and that makes the grass, the other portions of the grass, available for other types of grazers. Normally, after the buffaloes eat this top layer, the zebra come and they eat the other layer because they have the teeth, and that leaves just a very nutritional rich part of the grass on the bottom, which is for finer grazers, like small stuff like steenbok, like impala.
Each herbivore has its own speciality. These striped grazers and these herds of ruminants have a complementary action on the vegetation. And they are not the only ones.
You know, buffalo and zebra and the animals that have already been translocated to Zinav, they prepare the grass, they prepare the pasture for other species. So next ones on the list for Zinav are the ones that actually take advantage of having buffalo and zebra there. For example, impala or wildebeest.
Wildebeest, buffaloes and zebras will be the dream team that will rake everything in their way. In order to obtain wildebeest, Zinav National Park can count on another park in the region, Kruger, in neighboring South Africa, where the population of wildebeest has exploded. At daybreak, an impressive operation is already underway. Over 80 people, a helicopter and several trailers have been mobilized to capture the wildebeests.
Yeah, we're just having a look at all the curtains, if they're working and if they're not catching on anything on the ground. And then we're just putting everything in place. Japie, jy gaan die skeidings oorpak, nee?
Lawrence de Lange, the coordinator of South African parks, is seeing to the last details. In order to steer 100 wildebeest towards the lorries, the teams built what they call a boma, a gigantic funnel-shaped corridor that leads to the trailers.
Timothy, if you can just start the day for us, please. Please remember, these animals are dangerous. We've seen it in the past. They will come for you, all right? Especially the wildebeest. We're only planning to do blue wildebeest. Grant, Lawrence. Doing well. I'm just briefing the guy, then we're good to go.
The real challenge lies in driving entire herds inside, without leaving behind small, isolated groups. On the ground, things aren't necessarily happening as expected. The wildebeest are stubborn, and they refuse to rush into the boma. Lorenz dives in. It's a dangerous situation. Wildebeests are quite capable of goring a human. The ambush teams finally receive the go-ahead to close the boma.
So far, it's going well. Yeah, it's not bad for an hour.
Last individuals are finally driven into the trap that leads them to the trailers.
So it's actually a privilege to take animals there to establish new populations. That's been basically wiped out by humans in the past. It's actually quite sad to think about it, that we have to send animals there again because they've become locally extinct.
The convoy doesn't waste any time setting off because the wildebeest will have to survive a 2-day journey. Transporting animals over long distances and in the severe heat often means losses. But it's a risk that must be taken. In Zinav, the rewilding teams are facing a preoccupying situation. With the return of large numbers of herbivores, poaching has resumed. To address this problem, the authorities have created a ranger brigade.
We are at the post named Mayamba. It is divided into 3 sections, each run by 2 inspectors. Each section has a supervisor who is in charge of a team.
These new recruits from local communities are following an intensive training session to strengthen the ranks of the brigade.
Catalina and Milton, come closer.
80 young rangers will now be in charge of protecting the park. Their mission is dangerous because the poachers are unpredictable and often armed.
These are homemade shotguns. They've been made over many, many years. They've learned the art of a homemade. This is actually just a piece of water plumbing pipe. It's very crude. One of these guns can take at least 50 to 100 animals a year. So if you consider the total that I have of over 260, the number of animals that have been saved is quite a large sum.
The operations room is entirely dedicated to the anti-poaching strategy. Thanks to GPS technology, Trevor can follow each ranger brigade's position in real time. This means that he can send reinforcements quickly if a team needs it. To catch the poachers off guard, the armed guards travel discreetly on mountain bikes. The patrols mostly watch over the water points, where the herbivores regularly converge during the dry season. In the absence of lions and leopards, the poachers won't hesitate to travel deep into the more remote areas of the park, several hours away on foot from their villages.
Okay, you can go.
They even set up camp for the night. The ashes are still warm. You never need to look very long to find traps or snares. And today, they haven't found 1 or 2 traps, but over a dozen of them.
In this sector, there are a lot of poachers and many snares. We can deactivate 400 to 500 traps per month. It depends on the active operations and the density of the vegetation. Our objective is to clear and protect this area so that no one lays any more traps. And this is why we're here.
These traps are wickedly efficient and leave the herbivores with very slim chances of escape. but the patrol's interventions help to save many animals. However, the situation is changing. Over the last 2 years, the teams of rangers were able to secure more than half of the park.
This is the month of January to October of this year. These are wire snares, Cabo-Dark and Portuguese. The total for the year to date is 11,194. But what is quite evident, you will see the number of snares coming down that we are finding per month. It's getting less and less. And basically what this means, we have saved 11,000 animals in 1 year.
The next animals to be reintroduced in Zinav will be less exposed to poaching. After 2 days on the road, the convoy transporting wildebeests from South Africa is finally approaching. The trip between Kruger and Zinav was hardly an easy ride. Because of the poor state of the tracks and several punctures, the trucks are very late. The wildebeest have suffered. They are exhausted.
It's been a 50-hour journey. They're quite stressed when they get caught, so it's really important to get them offloaded here as soon as possible. They arrive at night. We're not waiting for the next day because it's really important to get them off as soon as possible so they can just relax a bit more. But anyway, I have to go and help now.
Bernard van Lente, João Simões de Almeida and the teams are impatient to free them. After 25 years of absence, these wildebeest will now repopulate the Zinav savannahs, joining the 85 zebras and the 100 or so buffaloes that have been released in the park these last months. Buffaloes, zebras and wildebeest are all here. The Savannah Dream Team is now complete. Despite a wealth of precautions, some animals suffered during the trip. João is taking care of a young, exhausted female. The vet leads her away immediately to look after her.
No, they're just giving a bit of fluid to help it recover a bit. Dehydrated. Yeah, just. Or just even to that side of it. 20 minutes.
Every animal counts, and females are even more precious. The keepers will watch over her part of the night. The return of the wildebeest marks a new step in the rewilding operation. This morning, Bernard van Lente starts his daily inspection of the park in the sector where the wildebeest have just been released.
It's really nice and really rewarding to see these animals here. You know, for many years you didn't see wildebeest or things like zebra in this area. And you can see they belong here. They're part of the system. They look right. It feels right to see them. And you can see they also, it's their habitat. They like it here. So it's quite satisfying to see this sort of thing.
a good sign, eh?
As for the teams of veterinarians, they have gone back to check on the female. Not only is she dehydrated, but she is also suffering from muscular injuries.
Left side.
Which side was it lying? This side?
It was this side, yeah. On the right side, I think it's the best, right?
Like this?
Yeah, like that, exactly. Myself and Dr. Johan Marai, we did fluids, a couple of other veterinary magic stuff. It seems to be much better today, but still guarded prognosis, so we don't know what's going to happen to her. In mass capture situations, mass captures, when you capture lots of animals at the same time, there's always casualties. Your aim is 0% mortality, but 2% mortality we consider acceptable. And we as vets, as saving the survivors, we're here to minimize them. It's going.
Reintroducing wild animals requires constant attention, as well as a lot of energy and devotion. Trevor Landray has retrieved the memory cards from the camera traps he installed near the water point.
There's some warthogs. Yes, we have another warthog and some more warthogs. And some buffalo. Seems to be a herd of buffalo that passed through here, also on its way to the water. We're still looking for the elephant coming through. Yes, we've got some impala now. Okay, finally we have some elephant. And I think I recognize this family group. I believe this group is from Makuzi, northern Zululand. They all look in good health. It was one of the first family groups that arrived here 2 years ago. And it came with a youngster, which was probably 1.5, 2 years old. But now I see it now, it has a smaller baby, which only looks to me about 6 months old, which is very interesting for me because one of the first times that I've actually physically seen this baby calf that was born, the first elephant to be born in Zinav out of all the elephants that have been translocated.
The birth of an elephant calf is wonderful and encouraging news for the future of the species in Zinav. It confirms that this herd has found its bearings and has perfectly adapted to its new environment. But the camera traps have still not shown the last elephant group to arrive in Zinav. Therefore, Bernard van Lente decides to go on a reconnaissance flight to try and localize the last herds and check if the groups have remained cohesive.
We're trying to find the elephant now. They're quite difficult to spot. They've already opened some tracks through the forest where you can see the other animals are using as well. Yeah, I could see buffalo and zebra and stuff down here. Okay, it looks like there's a herd of elephants over there. This looks like about 25 elephants. Very nice to see. Okay, so I can report to Trevor, a herd of elephants, 25, about 2 kilometers south of Zinav Bend.
This flight has confirmed that little by little, the herds are starting to claim this vast territory. At the heart of the forest of thorns and mopanes, the giraffes have also found their home. Anthony Alexander, Senior Project Manager of the Peace Parks Foundation, is very attached to his protégés.
The giraffe is the emblem of the park, so it's our most important species to reintroduce here. And in our first reintroduction 7 years ago, we brought in 7 giraffe, and they've done very well. We've got over 20 now.
These giants that rule over part of the canopy are entitled to special treatment. They occupy an isolated and fenced-off area.
Under the right environment of food, water, no poaching, no predators, the animal numbers tend to escalate very fast, 30% a year. So your numbers can double every 4 years, 3 to 4 years. Another animal such as an elephant or a giraffe, which with a much longer gestation period, will only grow at about 6% an annum. We're looking at introducing more, probably up to 200, to get to our carrying capacity of our 18,000 hectare size sanctuary area.
In the absence of predators, water bucks also reproduce very quickly. With at least one youngster per female per year, their population will almost double within 2 years. Their action on the new prairies is impressively efficient. Not one young shoot can resist them. Little by little, new clearings and savannahs appear. Zinav can welcome new species. With the regular arrival of animals and the recent translocation of the wildebeest, the teams have recruited villagers to take down some of the fences so that the herbivores may roam all over the park.
I walked in this park since 2016. I was born close to here at Kovan. At the moment, I'm working on the fence. We have to take it down. I don't know what I'm doing next, but I'm happy to work in the park.
The park's rewilding project is important for the local communities. In a few years from now, Zinav will be welcoming tourists and creating jobs, thus developing the region's economy. Week after week, the translocations continue. The teams are taking advantage of the dry season to organize new convoys, because with the rains, the tracks will soon be impassable and the park will become inaccessible. Still slightly dazed, these little herbivores have made it through the trip rather well and will be able to enjoy the vast wild stretches of Zinav without having to fear the slightest predator. Thanks to all the efforts undertaken by the park's teams, Zinav is about to rise from the ashes. Little by little, full biodiversity is returning. In the savannas and the woodlands, species that were thought to have disappeared are back. The insects are quick to recolonize new areas of the park. The Great Repopulation Program will continue for the coming years. Zinav will then count over 1,500 wildebeest, 5,000 zebras, and thousands of impalas. Over time, new generations of small and large herbivores will be born, grow and spread out on this vast territory. These elephant calves will be the founders of new herds that will, in turn, roam this land. The cycle of life is resuming rapidly. In the Febvre River, the crocodile populations are growing. These cleaners play a key part in the ecosystem. They attack the weakest animals and rid the rivers from carrion or sick fish that could spread diseases. But Zinav Park will not be able to find its true equilibrium without the large predators that control the growth of the herbivore populations.
We are now concentrated in herbivores because that's the first line, and we want to build the population of different species, but we understand that the ecosystem won't work perfectly if it does not have the carnivores, which are still missing. We are looking for next future to introduce hyena. We are going to introduce lions and leopards and eventually cheetah.
Rewilding nature is a long-term endeavor. One day, all the efforts undertaken will help the wildlife in Zinav to conquer new spaces and roam freely in the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park.
Hopefully, within a few years, we will have a proper, functioning, normal, natural ecosystem, similar to any other major national park in the world. You know, those parks took a long time to establish, maybe 50 years, and we're hoping to actually do it to fast-track this whole process by bringing animals and get to that stage in a shorter time, maybe 10 years from now.
A part of protecting wildlife, we want the local community to feel proud of this park. We want to reconnect the people and the wildlife because they have been living together throughout the years and have been enjoying what the nature gives to them.
On this land devastated by years of war and poaching, women and men are about to accomplish the impossible, to create, out of nothing, one of the most beautiful national parks in the world. Their gamble is about to be won.